The first thing that comes to my mind is easy money.
Why do you think most people are not able to understand this simple concept?
I sent over a contract. They were like, oh, we're good. When the CEO was reading the contract itself, it's like when his light bulb went on, like, oh, dude, I have a friend that does this. Why would you spend time trying to get new people interested where you have a bunch of people that already showed interest?
You're telling me this problem still exists. Why do you think companies have not solved for it?
I think it has to do a lot with the fragmented, shitty data.
This is the first time I'm hearing that seller's ego is stake here.
They get really excited about a potential deal moving forward. And then when they say no, it definitely hurts them emotionally.
Most founders say they need more pipeline, but if you open their CRM, you'll find a graveyard of closed lost deals just sitting there, ignored, forgotten, and collecting dust. Today's guest is Jorge Macias, and he thinks that's easy money. We're literally rebuilding a workflow step by step that brings dead deals back to life using AI, data, and tools you can set up yourself. This is not a thought leadership chat. This is a working session. All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. How are you feeling?
I am feeling great. Looking forward to having this cool conversation with you. So yeah, let's do this.
Awesome. So you said you help founders figure out their GTM motion, use a lot of cool, trendy tools, and have a lot of fun working. I don't see that often. Tell me more about what you do.
I run the go-to-market engineering company. I have the privilege to use tools that are on the bridge of innovation in the GTM space. And that lets me explore my creativity and how that ties back to business and sales, which I've been doing for a bunch of years in the past. So that usually means I'm working with some sort of AI workflows, automations, and orchestrating data to help find opportunities, deals, reply deals for my customers.
Wow, sounds complicated and interesting. And if you're having fun doing it, I'm pretty sure you would have a lot of things to teach us. Cool. Let's dive right into the topic. A lot of founders, sellers, operators I meet, who are closing sales, they keep saying, hey, we need more pipeline. And I don't think so anybody hears that more than me. But if we open any CRM and we all see a graveyard of closed lost deals, no one is ever touching. And these deals are not dead. These are just ignored. So today we want to talk about something we have never done on this podcast, AI GTM WTF. Jorge is actually going to share your screen in some time and show us the workflow that brings these deals back to life, not theory, the actual system. And we are going to see this for the first time. So Jorge, when you hear the closed lost deals, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
The first thing that comes to my mind is easy money. I think closed lost deals are a place where there's a lot of opportunity and people don't take that opportunity usually because the data is not structured in a way where it's easily available to do something with it. But also, I think there's like a mindset problem where once you're in a business conversation and someone says, no, we can work with you or we can do that right now, you automatically just throw that into the trash and you're like, okay, now on to the next one. And there's the culture of on to the next one mentality in sales. But like, why would you spend time trying to get new people interested where you have a bunch of people that already showed interest and you're not following up with them?
Wow, I mean, that sounds pretty simple. Why do you think most people are not able to understand this simple concept? Why are people not acting on it?
I think it has to do a lot with the fragmented, shitty data in the CRM. It's not easily available to do something with it. And I think there's also like an ego problem, if you want to go there, where people feel like their ego was struck when the deal was not closed or when the deal went bad. And now they feel like is makes them lesser or makes them maybe too pushy to just re-engage people who already said no. Does that make sense?
Tell me more about it. Like, I think this is the first time I'm hearing that seller's ego is at stake here.
It's so
Tell me, give me an
yeah.
example. Like, what might have happened for somebody to say, "Hey, you know what? This person or this prospect said no to me. Now I'm not gonna go after them."
Yeah, I think most sellers, I would say below average and average sellers, get happy ears when they're in sales conversations. And they get really excited about a potential deal moving forward. And then when they say no, something inside of them is kind of, I wouldn't say broken, but it definitely hurts them emotionally. It hurts their ego because they're incentivized to close deals. So not only does it makes them look bad with their manager, it also makes them look bad with the company. So I think when you throw all of that in, I think I'm throwing a lot of things into the mix. But when you throw everything in, emotionally it's a hard step to kind of go from someone that already said, no, we're not going to move forward. I'm not going to sign a contract. I don't want to do this. And kind of break that ego barrier and to go back and be like, hey, do you want to try this again? Do you want to chat again? You want to re-engage in a conversation?
Hmm. Okay. I hear you that one is a ego problem, but like you said, that's probably the case with average or bad sellers. What about the good companies? What about companies who may not have this problem? What are the other problems they might be dealing with?
First thing that comes to mind are territory reassignments, turnover. When someone worked on a deal in the past, then they left the company with all the context of who was I speaking to, who was the champion, who was the person that had the deep problem that we solved. So a lot of the context is also not in the CRM. It's in the conversation. It's in the person that was managing the deal's brain. So sometimes it's just hard if you've been assigned another territory or if there's a lot of turnover to have access to that and then be able to have all the ammo that you need to really re-engage an old opportunity.
Gosh, I thought all these years somebody would have solved this problem already, because I remember I used to face this problem in 2019 when I was taking a handover. And I remember I would go line by line, deal by deal, making sure all the notes, all the POCs are there. And you're telling me this problem still exists. Why do you think companies have not solved for it?
It's a very good question. I think it has to do a lot with the age which the CRMs were built. And at the time where the CRMs were built was the time where you needed the human input, you need data entry for the CRM to have the whole information. I think years have gone by and now we're dealing in a world where most of our conversations are recorded, transcripted, and where you can push a lot of that data back into the CRM automatically, and that you don't have that need of that human input. But at the same time, the companies that created the most wealth in this space are all old companies. So they're holding into that old way of life. And no, I don't think it has to do with them. It was the time where they built the tools with the CRMs and the sales tools with what they had with the technology they have at that time. But we just moved past that. So yeah, I think we're living in a very interesting world where there's definitely going to be a shakeup in a lot of these markets, and history is going to be written.
All right. Let's go back to your initial statement where you said it's an easy target, right? These are the people these are the companies, businesses who have already shown interest and did not move forward with your product or services for what XYZ reasons. We're going to assume that, this data exists somewhere in some form, shape, or another. Uh, And now is the time when we want to first identify, okay, out of let's say 1,000 deals we closed or we lost in the last 1 year, assuming that's a rough estimate or some number.
It's a good estimate.
How do we find out? Okay, what are the top 200 we can go after this month? Maybe they said, they were already in a contract with another vendor, or they went with another vendor, assuming the contract lasts for 1 year. And there could be so many possible reasons. There was an integration which they were banking on, which we did not have earlier, or the POC probably liked one product over yours and went with another, and the POC moved out, or I don't know. I mean, I think you're the expert here, so you know more about the
It's
reasons and sub reasons and whatnot. So tell us, what are some of the possible reasons why lead get lost, and what are some of the how would you go about finding the gold among this?
I think you already touched on a lot of those reasons. I think the close loss reason itself is not the problem, because most companies have like a pick list in their CRM where they could choose a specific reason why the deal didn't move forward. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is the context behind that, and that there are all nuances in each of those pick lists. So you mentioned went with competitor, didn't have budget, champion problem. You maybe had like features that you didn't have that they needed. There's millions of reasons why companies decide not to buy, but it's not the reason itself, is all the context behind that reason. Everything that went into the conversation while you were selling. So I think the best way to deal with that is to kind of take everything and summarize it into a text field that has a lot of things in there, instead of trying to summarize everything into a one selection pick list approach that most companies do.
Yeah, I think I have done the same thing. I had no idea that I had to put so much text into it. All right, let me ask you a
But
follow up question on.
I could also give you like an example of how I
Sure.
do it right now. So I have my CRM is tied to my note taking software. So they're the same thing. So basically, every deal in my CRM has all the context of all the conversations that I've had with them. So I basically created this property inside my deal that basically takes all the information it tied to that deal and summarizes all the context. And in the output, I mentioned the last time that we spoke, last month, the reason why they decided to not move forward, and the whole summary of the project, the name of the project, what they wanted to accomplish, and the reason why it ended up not working out. So I have like an AI that goes into all the calls that went into one deal and then provides like a pre-summary. And um, if we think about like 5, 10, 50 years ago, that would have been against good practices of how to manage a CRM. But we're living in the world of AI now, where instead of you condensing all the context into one option, you want to give as much context to the AI to then be able to do things with it. So that's why we need to kind of rethink how CRMs are built and how we store the information of the conversations that we're having.
Tell us about the CRM you're using. Seems like fancy.
And no, it's not fancy at all. Uh, I am using a CRM that's called Day AI. It is basically a merge in between your note taking software and and your CRM. It, like every CRM, it has a people section, it has our company section, and has deals. So every CRM has that. I think what it does really well is that it basically automatically enriches the data of the people and the organization, and you can you can fill or you can summarize particular properties inside people or people, company, or deals based on the calls themselves, which is pretty
Wow.
cool.
I like how CRMs have evolved actually, because I was in the market not too a while ago shopping for CRMs, and I'm realizing, hey, some of them have existed for years and they pretty much feel like the same. And all the problems which you just described to me, I think I've gone through all this problem in the last 1 year where I have deals which were lost because of budget. Okay. But, and this is where my next question will be. Once I realize, okay, they're not moving forward with me because my pricing is high, I don't think so. I probably did a good job at further finding out, what really happened around the budget. Because was I off by $5,000, $50,000? I don't know. And if I were to
It
reach out to them
was
today, go ahead.
the other question is, was the problem not budget, but the timing of the budget? Because
Sure.
maybe they had a certain amount per month and you ended up pitching at the end of that budget cycle. So they might have considered it, but it was just not good timing. And they said budget and you bought
Yep. I don't think so. I ever thought about that. But yes, you're right. It could be the timing of the budget. It could be that I failed to show the value. I don't know. There will be so many things which could fall under budget. And I don't think so. As sellers, we do a good job, like you said. And that is my next question. How do you ensure that information is captured is correct? Because for me, if I'm a seller, I'm just going to pick that option as budget, and that's it. Boom. I would think that I did a good job, and my manager is happy because they would be looking at, oh, does all the deals have the close loss reason? The answer is yes. But is that data useful? Hell no.
it. No. I think the best way I approach this as a seller is just going for the ask and also using the time investment on my end as a way to get that information. So usually I would have a call where I would have send an email where I would say like, hey, I invested this many hours into deals, kind of understanding like your challenges, your pain points, trying to tie that back to a product and service or whatever. And it's okay if we're not a good fit. I don't expect everyone like to be a good fit every time, but I would really want to understand like what really happened. And usually like they'll say like budget and then just go a deep level and be like, hey, can we do a call and can I have more? Can I really understand what happened so I can learn for my future self, or I can just learn how I can find this information sooner so I don't invest that much time. So I always spin it off of like, please help me learn. First, I categorize like, this is a huge loss for me. And that plays into their ego, like, oh, we were really important. You invested all this time or whatever. So that always helps. And then I always frame like, help me learn, help me educate so I don't invest this much time in the future. I'd like, if you built a good rapport
Hmm.
through a process, there most of the time they'll kind of let you know what really happened. I've heard some crazy stories.
Tell me one.
I had one recently where we were really close. We've had a few conversations. I met with our CMO, VP of sales. I sent over a contract. They were like, oh, we're good. And then they told me like, oh, we're not going to move forward. I was like, dude, what happened? Like, I think everyone was aligned. The contract's very simple. Like, what happened? And he told me like, oh, sorry. Like my CEO has like one of her, his best friends does this for a living, has like an agency very similar to yours. So we decided to go with like his best friend. I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that. Like that makes me feel like it's not, but then I was like, but why didn't we know this before? Like, why did it take 3, 4 meetings on our end that you invested in that time and I invested that time. And it took the contract itself when the CEO was reading the contract itself. It's like when his light bulb went on, like, oh, dude, I have a friend that does this. So this happens.
That's a good question. Actually, I'm learning a lot already. All right, tell us this. I mean, I think we have so far discovered and established that there is a problem with the way we are looking at close loss deals. The data is a mess. You are saying that, hey, I'm using it totally differently, where I have a new age CRM which connects to your meeting notes and has all the context, which I'm pretty sure not everybody would have because all these new age CRM just came in the last 1 or 2 years, and you are probably the first person I'm talking to who's using it. So if you were to redesign, let's say, an organization, rebuild the whole foundation, what would that AI-ready GTM system look like? Only from the perspective that, we don't have this problem, at least going forward.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is having like a Zapier, Make.com, and it and type of integration where you're at least pushing all of your note takers transcript into like a data warehouse or a Google Drive or a place where you can go and look at it later. I think that's like my first. If you could push that data into the CRM and have a way to save that data into the CRM, go ahead and do that. If not, I would also kind of establish like a process where instead of just choosing a close loss reason at the end of a deal cycle, the AE is also investing some time writing like the story of what happened. Like, hey, I talked to this guy, found it this way. This is the main project name. This is the reason. This is what I thought. This is the questions that I could have done. All that, and have that into a text field if you have like an old school CRM where you're not saving a lot of this data. Yeah, I think that's the two, like the more advanced way I would approach this, and then the most manual data entry way that would approach this. You could also take the notes transcripts, push everything to ChatGPT and tell them like, hey, give me the summary. That could also
Yeah,
help. But
I
then
think
you're
that's what most sellers are doing, like you said.
excited.
All right, I'm actually getting excited for the part where you share your screen and show us where can we find gold, how do we find gold, and what does the process look like to reach the goal.
Okay. Do you want to go straight to it?
Sure, yeah, fire away. I mean, I'm very excited. I think that's what everybody who is listening to this is. Enough thought leadership. Tell us how to get the real job done. So I think that's where you
Lo-
come in.
Love it. Let's do it. Let me share my screen. I think the when I share my screen, it looks a little bit zoomed out. So do let me know if it's too zoomed out. So the first thing
Yeah, it's
that I
zoomed
wanted,
out, so you might want to zoom in a bit.
yeah, a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's good. So we can look at titles, stages, orgs, days in stage, close date, and so on.
Sounds good. So the first thing that I did for this exercise, since we're gonna be recording live, is I went and I downloaded my own CRM data from the AI, like I mentioned before, and I pushed that into OpenAI and ChatGPT and told them to de-anonymize all the data. So even though all of this looks pretty weird in terms of names of companies, organizations, all that. The data that we are using, like the days in stage, close date, and the reason why they didn't close is from my real CRM. So I think that's the most important thing because I don't want to build something and make the listeners think or feel like, oh, like this is like a dummy experiment or you kind of use the data that was convenient for you. I wanted to use something real and something that get people really understand. So in terms of the starting point and the input, we're gonna start with everything is a close lost opportunity. We have the days in stage. I think I did everything that was 30, 45 days or more. those close lost. And then the most important information, it's here where we have the summary of last time we spoke with them, the project summary. They were exploring some go-to-market engineering help. They want to help with hotspot. They were targeting the CMO. They were doing X amount of revenue. So all that is real data. We're just moving the names of the companies and the people. And then the other thing is we need first name, last name, email, and LinkedIn for the campaigns itself. So we're starting with opportunity and people data merged into just one table. And then
Quick
something
question.
that, go ahead.
All right. Are we, like, while this data is great, I think one of the question I have at the top of my mind is, what if these people have left the organization and somebody else has replaced them? Would we do some cleaning before we do anything with the data, or are we just going to act upon it?
Yeah, I think if you want to do that double check before you send, that would be a step that I would do in Clay, not in the CSV or the data itself.
Got it.
But it's a great catch, because not because they worked there 84 or 90 days ago means they're still working there. So great point. Um, So how do I approach this? I always start with the copy. So I wrote this quick little copy. That's how I want to approach the campaign itself. So we're gonna start by just looking at their profile. Pretty simple. Um, we are going to send a connection request. Most of my deals, I would guess I've connected with these people, but in case I haven't, I'm gonna have a step in the sequence to do that. I'm gonna wait a couple days. Um, Something to just take into consideration when you're building all these LinkedIn automations is that it's if you want to optimize for acceptance rates on LinkedIn, it's better to not send a note with a connection request. And also, LinkedIn itself has some limits on the amount of things or things that you can do on a daily basis, weekly basis, and monthly basis with your LinkedIn account. So if you did wanted to send a LinkedIn message with your connection, you are gonna get hit those limits really fast, or else you need to buy a Sales Navigator um, membership from LinkedIn. So in this example, I'm not gonna send any connection, but I did want to mention that because it comes
That's
up a
great
lot. It
information,
covers.
useful. And I can second that, because I think I have two licenses, one for me, one for my co-founder. He has Navigator, I don't, and I know the limits are different. And at the same time, I have enough data, which can confirm when I add a connection message, the connection rate is way lower than the one when I don't.
Yeah, it does make a change. I am a fan of no notes in the connection request since I started using LinkedIn. Um, so it also comes very natural for me to never send anything with a note. So this is the copy that I wanted to use, and there's a reason why I'm starting with the copy, and then I'm going into Clay or Lemlist and doing the building. So similar to the conversation we had before we started recording, um, my analogy here is that when you're doing an essay in uni, or you're doing like an executive summary or some sort, you want to do the bulk of it and then you do the introduction. So I think like email campaigns are the same. You first want to start with a copy, find what are the main components of the copy that you need to automate information or do data orchestration for, and then you go ahead and you do that. Because if you start building without knowing what you want to say, usually you do the whole build and then you start writing the copy. You're like, oh, I can't fit heat this here. I don't have that point of information. And you ended up doing a lot of rework. So this is just a small suggestion that have saved me a lot of hours of time. And then in terms of the copy, I'm going to use first name that you always want to normalize and clean. Um, I'm going to say last time we spoke on May, September, June, January, whatever, you mentioned, and in this field, which is where the magic is going to happen, I'm going to summarize everything that I have in my close last text field. And then I just wanted to touch base and see if you want to open talking about some go-to-market engineering help. If so, here's my calendar. And if they don't answer, I just want to do like a quick message with no variables. That's going to be like, hey, want to grab time to chat and just catch up? Okay, we can do 15 minutes. So not like a hard close, just like, hey, let's just talk again type of thing. Anything you want to add from the copy itself? Pretty simple, straightforward, but just wanted to get your take.
No, I think it's good. I'm just trying to think if I were to receive this email, uh, is this a fresh email which will go out?
Yeah. We can do like a fresh email, or we could do like a summarized version of this and like a LinkedIn message. But
Right.
then we would need to
I
kind of consider the limitations of like the LinkedIn character limits in messages.
Oh, okay. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. My only
But
concern
also
is
it's not gonna be like a cold person because you met with them a few
right.
times and it's like someone that
Yeah.
knows you.
I think the only thing which I would want to reconsider is given that, I might have spoken to, let's say, Jorge 8 months ago. And after that,
Mhm.
my life has revolved around so many other things. And if I remember Jorge, great. If I don't, I would need some context. What did we speak about? What is GTME? I mean, I might not
Mhm.
have the clarity again. So is that something which we are going to assume that they would remember? Or is that something which you maybe are going to include in the second email? Hey, maybe you don't remember what we do. This is what we do. This is
Mhm.
what we talked about. Because what if they went with another competitor, and let's say if the competitor name is again known, it might ring a bell to them. Oh yeah, I went with this competitor. So okay, they are probably one of the same vendors in the same space. But what do you think?
I think in this workflow itself, I am assuming that just mentioning the date that we last spoke and the close loss reason, it's gonna be enough for that person to remember. I'm also assuming that people remember me because I am very memorable.
You are.
But yeah, we could also kind of flip this over, or I I think general like around campaigns, there's always like infinite ways of you can structure how you can say anything. I think like the most important concept is retain close host deals, pushing them into a sequence, and we're trying to reactivate it. I think it's more important to like keep the macro perspective on this whole thing than spending hours or minutes talking a lot of like, oh, we should say this way and this other way. I think the most important thing is that you shoot this, you see how it works, and if you don't get any answers, then you kind of rethink the copy or rethink the approach. You want to do more LinkedIn, more email, more whatever. So that's my overall take.
No, I think that's fair. What you're suggesting is just, let's say, I think I would say starting ground. I think
Exactly.
depending on the kind of product, depending on when did they speak to somebody, what if the deal was lost 2 years ago, they might want to add more context.
Yeah. And I'll also like for context in my CRM, I only have deals that have been lost in the last, I don't know, 100 to 30 days.
No, 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 no.
So I'm also assuming that everyone kind of remembers me because everything's been pretty soon. Um, so yeah, the way I would build this would be very different for myself. I just did this workflow for myself than I would do if it's like a organization with just founders, organization with founders and 5 AEs. It's going to be different to how I would build this if it's like an organization with 50 AEs. All that definitely goes into how you approach building this overall thing.
Makes sense.
So one one cool thing that I like to do is I like to um
Would you zoom in a
out
bit?
I consuming, yeah. Something that I do like to do in
I think you need to zoom in
in
a bit. Sorry about that.
more.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe 1 second. That works, or
A
even
little bit
that's too
more. I can see its visit profile, but I think I can't like see
much.
properly.
Now,
Yeah, better. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
okay. So one quick hack that I have for launching campaigns through Lemless is I would go write the copy first, and that's why we talked about the copy first. Then I go and I build the campaign in Loveless, and then I go into into Clay and build the variables and the data orchestration that are going to feed into that. So in this example, I'm going to start. I did the first test with you. Um,
Can you zoom
and
in again? I'm so sorry. I think the copy is not clear. Yes.
yeah, so this first person that I put in the sequence is gonna be you. So you're gonna receive a LinkedIn and email connection from me, talking about a deal that didn't happen. But the idea behind it is to go create the sequence first in one list, have like a dummy first lead that you put that person in, and then you go and build in Clay, and you can launch the whole thing from Clay afterwards. So that's just like a quick tip that also saves time. So you don't have to build things in Clay, export that as a CSV, and then go back into Lemless and rebuild the whole thing.
Got it.
So now onto the good stuff. So in this example, I'm gonna do some zooming. Does that work for you?
Yep.
So for this table, we have it's the same table that we had here with the dummy data. So I just uploaded everything in there. Um, and then there are only two variables that we want to take for the copy. One is the last time we spoke, and then the other one is the summary of the deal itself. So everything else we already have in the CSV, which is the first name, signature of the sender, which is always going to be me. So that's like the main thing. So the most important variable is going to be this one, close loss recent text. Um, and then the AI that I created for that, instead of showing the whole prompt, I'm just going to show what I wrote to the AI to write the prompt. So in Clay, I'm saying like, uh, use this field, close loss recent text, and extract the last conversation date, only output the month of that last conversation. And then basically I just click here on generate, and it generates this whole context, objective, instructions, this whole really complicated prompt that we don't need to get into. Then the most important thing in Clay is to understand how in natural language are you going to explaining what you need to do, and just let the AI do its thing. So I ran that. Um, So you can see here, June, April, July, those I did a quick check of the main data and make sure that that was working correctly. Always double check with the AI. Don't let it run by itself. And then one other cool thing that I did is I named the column that has that output exactly the same as the custom variable that we create in the lump list. So that way, when we push from clay to lump list, it automatically knows that that piece of the copy is tied to that column. That's another quick hack. Any questions there, Rahul?
No, I think this is good.
Okay, I don't want to bore listeners here to death with my approach, but then the only next step is similar to the close loss reason is writing the rest of the copy. This prompt is a little bit longer, but I'm basically saying take this close loss recent text, which we have here. You can preview really quickly if we go over it. To complete this sentence, last time we spoke on date, you mentioned output. And then basically what I'm prompting here is I'm saying I need for the output of this thing to fit into this sentence. I've spent countless, I would say thousands of hours trying to make sure that AI writes in a way that fits into whatever copy I'm writing. So I created this best practice where I'm actually telling the AI, whatever you do, it needs to fit into this sentence. And it drastically improves the way the AI does whatever task you asked it for. Do you have any questions there?
Interesting. Yeah, I think this is what I was waiting for because,
Sauce.
yeah, I think rest of the stuff I was like, oh, I can do that. But this is where I was like, hey, I need to see how you're doing it. How does it sound like? How does it feel like to see an output which will be in my language? Because we've seen how Chat GPT or AI can formalize it, make it super formal, which is probably not our style. So yeah, I'm excited to see the results.
Yeah. The other thing that you could do is also prompt it to like write shorter, make it like straight to the point, things like that. That would help. That would help keep the AI have some guardrails for it to write how you write. That's that's one thing. A tool that I use a lot that helps me write copies Octave, where you basically create like a company GPT or private GPT. You give it all the context and then it helps you write emails. For this example, I didn't want to go that road because I didn't want to make this workflow more complicated than it needs to be. But yeah, and then another quick suggestion is instead of asking AI to write like the whole email or write like a whole sentence, it's usually really good when you ask it to write like a very specific part of sentence. If it's one word alone, usually it's going to be really good. If you want it to write 4 to 7 words, it's usually going to be really good. If you ask it to write like 10 words, 15 words, like a paragraph, a sentence, the bigger the output, the harder it is to make sure it fits into what you're doing.
Interesting. And so that all the listeners, all the people who are watching the podcast can also follow.
Yeah.
Are there any parts of it which can be done without Clay? For example, if I'm an account executive and I want to run my own campaigns and I don't have access to Clay, is there a way I
Yeah.
can run this prompt, maybe using another tool?
Yeah, you could, for sure. But it would require to give that other tool like the context. In this example, the reason why we're using Clay is that we have a column, we have a spot in a CRM where we save all that information. to be able to use it. So if you don't, you need to give that context on why. Or just go into CRM, scroll past like the activities, the emails, the texts, formulate your own way of writing this part of the sentence. Or you could also not provide any context on past conversation. I think that's like the easier answer. Is like you just email them and be like, "Hey, I know you talked with someone from our team or myself um, a few months ago. Are you interested in our services again?" And I think that's when that's more similar to like spray and pray approach because you're not doing any contextual thinking or analyzing or formatting or anything. You're just shooting an email for everyone. Uh, so that's why I like this type of approach.
I can see how that can work, but I can see this will be far more effective than the other approach.
Yeah. So this is the prompt. I'm telling it where in the sentence it's gonna be. I'm also saying like whatever you output here, it's going to summarize the reason on why they decided to not move forward, make sure it fits well into the rest of the conversation. And then I gave it some examples. This just general um give me 1 second. So we'll cut this part. It sounds very blurry, right?
No, I think it could also be Riverside, so don't worry about it. Because
Okay.
sometimes Riverside, does this stupid thing where it says it's a bad quality, but when you see the result, it's actually pretty
Okay.
good.
Now I look really well now. Okay. So the other thing that I did is I gave it some examples on how of things that it could write. That helps improves the prompt. So I gave some example of that you wanted to focus on operations before focus on sales, or that you are going to race around, or that you don't have budget for this. So that way the AI can read the whole context summary of the conversation, but then have some ways of how it could write. And then we could also make it short or make it straight to the point or add anything that kind of ties to how you write. So I basically clicked here on generate and it generated this long prompt with context, objectives, instructions, maintain professional, natural, examples, and all that. Then when you run that, it gave me this, that timing, capacity, engagement preference did not align between parties.
Wow, I like the output.
The timing capacity mismatch prevented, that the project was postponed due to timing and availability constraints. It's still not like great, but it's a good starting point. And then something that I also do is I write, even though I'm going to be putting the whole email together on Lemlist before sending, I always like to create a formula where I write the whole email and I just take a look and I see like, oh, this looks good or not. So, hey, Aaron, last time we spoke on you and you mentioned that timing, capacity, engagement did not align. Once it touch base, if you need some go-to-market engineering help, if so, here's my Calendly. So that's just like a quick a way that I like to take a look at emails before I get them added to a campaign. Um, Something cool that I've done, like in this example, we're only gonna send like 22 emails, but if we're sending like thousands or tens of thousands, I always like to add an AI prompt that reads the email and make sure it looks sendable, which is kind
Tell
of
us more about that. What do you mean?
like I would go and add a column that uses AI and say, read this email read this email and approve if it should go out or not. And then you're creating like a human in the loop type workflow where
Wow.
the AI is reading the email and it's catching if something is off. Yeah, I could improve this prompt by saying like, check that the email reads human, or check that the pieces of the copy fit in well together. Make sure that not anything that's not bad pronunciation, things like that. There are a million of kind of examples that I could use here to help this prompt get better, but it's just like a quick hack that I've done in the past, which has been really good and has helped me find things that were off or that didn't look good in an email. So
This is good. I mean, I love this, by the way. I'm very excited to implement this because I can think of so many. And while I've heard of human in the loop so many times, I have probably not seen a very simple use case like this.
yeah,
And I use Clay all the time and I create emails, I create messages, but I think this is a great, simple use case. I love it.
thank you, man. So yeah, I think the only last step is adding it into Lemlist. Like in my case, since I created the campaign before doing all this in Clay, the campaign's already created. It's already tied to the email, the LinkedIn. The one thing that you do need to make sure is that the custom fields, so the fields that are going to feed the copy, are exactly the same written and Clay as are written in Lemlist, so they understand each other and the information is correctly passed from one way to the other. So
Alrighty.
just make sure that looks good. And then if everything looks good, you just go ahead and you push all those leads into Lemlist. And then after all these lists are imported, which I just did, you just do a quick check. So I'm going to check Aaron Patrick, and the campaign's going to look at their profile, send them an invitation, and it's going to say, hey, Aaron, last time we spoke on you mentioned that time and capacity engagement were not aligned. Wanted to touch base. Here's the Calendly. And then let me just notice the signature is not looking good. So save this.
This is amazing.
And then we can just click on launch. We can just select all these and launch them. So that's the workflow. Nothing crazy, nothing out of this world, but you can re-engage new like old leads and get them warmed up again and hopefully close some deals.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Now, I do have some follow up questions on this. One, let's say if I'm an account executive who probably has, let's say, 100 lost deals in the last 1 year or so, maybe more, maybe less, and I want to run this. I think one of the questions which we had asked earlier, and we'd like to double click on that right now. How do I identify, are there signals for these deals as well, which will alert me that, hey, out of these 100, you need to tap onto these 50? Because maybe if I have 100 deals and I run after them this month, I don't have anything for the next month, but there's a possibility that some deals may make sense for me to reach out this month. Some may, alert. Some may require my intervention next month. How do we decide that?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of different ways that you could do that in Clay based on news, public news, RSS feeds, job changes, things like that. I think it really depends on the size of your organization. If you want to kind of have a manual workflow to do all that, or if you want to buy other tools like Comma Room, Unify, like more mid-market enterprise tools for this. And Yeah, you could mix in like Trigify and signals from LinkedIn, or you can do scraping through Aidify. You could do Phantom Buster. You could do like the number of things that you could do are infinite. I think the the best time to start is just now, and then do a small experiment, launch it, see how well it does, and then iterate and make it better with time.
Amazing. All right. Tell us a little bit about the results which you are seeing or which your clients are seeing after implementing something like this. What is the bare minimum we should be looking at so that we know, okay, it's working?
Yeah, so I'm getting 10 to 20% reply rates on these emails, and then I would say like half of the reply rates are like, yeah, let's jump on a call, let's meet again and kind of chat about how are we going with our current solution, how are we thinking about strategy for next year and things like that. So the results are really good. I think as the numbers grow and as you have more and more deals that are in the closed loss brave jar, the more valuable this could be.
Wow, this was definitely an eye opener. Now, my final question: where
By
can
the
we
way,
find this? Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say like normal reply rates for cold emails, like 3% on average. So you're getting like 3x better reply rates and positive outcomes just because you're reaching out to people that know you, that know your brand, know your company, have talked to you before and all that. So yeah, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to make that part clear because it does help a lot.
No, it's totally fair. Thank you. Now, where can we find this workflow so that, either because Jorge has already done the job, can I just put in my data and, get the emails quickly? Would you be sharing the Clay workflow with us?
Yeah. I'll share the template right after this call, and I'll have it to you so you can tag it in for the podcast when it comes out.
Wow. So that means if I have your workflow, I will just put in my data and I will have the similar results like you.
If you're bringing in the same inputs, yeah, for sure. It does like I'm not a huge fan of like how templates are built because it's not probably the way that you have your data structure is not going to be exactly as mine. So it is going to take a little bit of kind of tying all the fields together, names of the fields and all that. But yeah, you certainly are going to have access to like the prompts that we used in the workflow.
Okay. I think that should be the good starting point. And I'm pretty sure people who are watching this are smart enough that they can figure out, hey, I have an extra field. I just need to insert that field in Clay.
Exactly.
I think I'm really looking forward to trying it.
Yeah. Let me know, like you and any of the listeners, if you're doing a version of this and you have any questions on how to put it the whole thing together, or you kind of need an extra set of hands to build this, do let me know. I'm always down to jump on a call, understand your data structure, and see how that affects how we change the workflow.
That's
And
amazing. Can I?
we did the like the simplest version of this. You can go as complicated as you want, and you can make this like a huge part of your UTM motion. But the larger the scale, the more complicated the system's gonna be in terms of the build.
Wow. I think I'm quite excited about this for a number of reasons. One, because this seems like totally actionable to me because I can see it like implementing right away. Then I can think of, hey, we can even create like a whole playbook on LinkedIn and say that, hey, if you want this playbook, just comment send, or we're gonna make it viral or something like that. Then if people were to reach out to you, of course they can reach out to you on LinkedIn, but
Yeah.
would you want to share your link Calendly, which we can share with
Yeah.
everybody? How would you want them to reach out?
Yeah. I'll share my LinkedIn, connect to me over there, and I stopped everyone that comes as a connection request. I'm not picky in that sense, and do let me know if you do want to jump on a call or talk about this or some sort of different play workflow help that you need. Feel free to reach out to me through LinkedIn, and I can send my Calendly link through there, and we can jump on a call. Like my Calendly link, it's also like on my website. I can share it as part of the episode. if you want to talk to me, I'm not going to put some barriers into you.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining in, Jorge. I think this was great. I'm really looking forward to trying it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the time. And yeah, if you yourself need some help building anything, Clay, just feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yep. Bye.